Hello and welcome to the latest Royal Roundup from Talk. So, pop the kettle on. This is the Royal Tea. I'm Sarah Hewson. Coming up on today's show, what's the real story behind Harry not meeting up with his father on his recent visit to the UK? Plus, why the palace may be postponing a number of events over the next 6 weeks. And royal fans are in uproar over a new painting of the Princess of Wales. Joining me today to discuss all that and more are the former royal correspondent at The Times, Valentine Low, and Talk's royal correspondent, Rupert Bell. Hello to both of you. Now, the royal family is postponing engagements which may appear to divert attention or distract from the election campaign, Buckingham Palace announced this week. It comes after Rishi Sunak called a general election for the 4th of July. Val, it feels like the King's only just got going again following his cancer diagnosis, and he's having to press the pause button one more time.
Yes, I know. I mean, we don't know exactly which events will be postponed, but the King was due to be in Crewe, I think tomorrow, for an event at Bentley Motors. That's gone, but I think garden parties will probably still go ahead. William was due to be doing something this week. That's gone. It was an unannounced engagement. But the King's presence at the D-Day ceremonies, that will still be going ahead. I
mean, there'd be uproar if that was impacted.
I think there definitely would be uproar. And I think there has to be a question mark over the forthcoming incoming state visit by the Emperor of Japan, because that's got heavy political overtones. So I wouldn't be surprised if that got ditched. But you've got to ask yourself, you know, the palace says we don't want to distract or divert attention. I'm sorry, come on. We'd love you to divert and distract attention from the election. By then we'll have had enough of it. And any royal diversion will be welcome. But no, the palace has been very dutiful. And a little surprisingly, I'm not particularly aware of them having been so public about doing this before. Perhaps they have. Perhaps if I look through the archives, I'd find it. But I think they're being very careful, erring on the side of caution.
And the King had his weekly audience with the Prime Minister yesterday, Wednesday, Rupert, before the Prime Minister made that announcement, and he had to ask the King to dissolve Parliament. We are facing the prospect now, aren't we, with the general election coming up in July, of the King potentially, if it goes the way the polls suggest, seeing his third Prime Minister in a reign of less than 2 years.
Yeah, which is an extra testament to the political confusion that this country has been going through. And he's got to remain calm and above it beyond. I wonder, did Richie change his suit before he went to see him, or did that come after the dissolution? Because that wasn't a great look for Rishi, but I hope he did change his suit. But it is, I suppose, I agree with Valentine. I can't remember anything when there were previous elections, any statement coming out and thinking maybe they just changed one or two things, but they didn't make any announcement and just got on, because presumably there wasn't going to be as much interest if they were going to wherever they were going to before. The Queen thought, right, we just go all quiet. But it will mean, I suppose, the King's birthday parade will continue. Hopefully in his carriage he'll turn up for that. And Royal Ascot, which is semi-private anyway, won't be impacted by that as well. And, you know, hopefully he will be there.
But Val's point about the incoming state visit by the Emperor of Japan, I mean, these state visits are months, if not years, in the planning, aren't they? So there's going to be a lot of unpicking to be done, if that's...
I would have thought so, because it's all the political... The reason is, you look at Japan is very important strategically now, above and beyond the state visit, for Britain, because of all that's going on in Asia with the power, you know, China exerting its influence. We need Japan as an ally. So I don't know what... But isn't the Japanese protocol, they don't actually announce the dates, because it's almost like they're coming then, and it's almost like a week before. You might know more about it than I do, Valentine.
Yes, we were just told it was coming at the end of June, weren't we? But not given specific dates because of protocol. Well, Rupert mentioned the Prime Minister's rather soggy suit. He wasn't the only one braving the rain this week, because the Prince of Wales was joined by young royals for his first garden party of 2024 at Buckingham Palace. The summer event, although it didn't really look or feel like summer, included familiar faces like Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, Zara Tindall and Peter Phillips. The King and Queen weren't present, nor was the Princess of Wales, who is, of course, continuing her cancer treatment. But Val, it was a very youthful lineup, wasn't it? I mean, it was almost the court of William, the cousins there.
Yeah, yes, exactly. The cousins are very much on Team William, and of course, those are not working members of the royal family, but they can still be wheeled out, and it gives a different profile, more youthful profile. It's all a good thing. My only disappointment that we didn't see Peter Phillips' new girlfriend,
who he did present to the Queen, at least, to Queen Camilla, didn't he? And I'm not sure about the King, at the badminton horse trials, I believe. So she has had her royal appointment. But, yes. I mean, all you saw was a sea of umbrellas for this garden party. And I felt so sorry for those who've, been looking forward to this moment, which is a huge date for anyone that's invited.
Well, I have to say, it is quite that young profile. It's showing that they need this look. And Zara, obviously, looking the My Fair Lady look, was sort of stealing the show, and Zara looking basically being the centre of attention. Yeah. And it does show, in a sense, that they've got to become forward, and how they managed that and bringing them, and they were centre in front of everything that was happening that day, even though it was a very soggy experience for and how did the sandwiches stand up to that rain? I wonder, but...
I noticed Princess Eugenie, posted on social media about how delighted she was to be supporting the family. And we've had a lot of talk, haven't we, over recent months about whether or not more of them, particularly the younger royals, Beatrice and Eugenie, might be brought into more of these
supporting is a very kind of, dog whistle word there, because that's the word that people use about people supporting the monarch, other members of the royal family supporting the monarch in their work. So I think she chose her words carefully.
The Princess of Wales has been credited as the driving force behind a brand new report that suggests investing in the early years could boost the UK economy by more than £45 billion a year. Although Kate is said to be excited by the task force new report, Kensington Palace said this should not be seen as a sign she's going to be returning to work anytime soon. Kate's been kept updated throughout the development of the report. It is one of her main priorities, but a spokesperson said she's not expected to be back until she's got the green light from her medical team. And it was interesting, Rupert, wasn't it, with the publication of this report by her business task force, and she's got some really big names on board for this, that Kensington Palace very keen to stress she's seen it, she's been briefed, she's not back to work.
Well, I think basically, the way you manage cancer treatment, you have good days and bad days, and on those good days, presumably, she is able to get on and read and sort of understand what's going on. But we do know that this is a project that is extremely close to our heart, and she will be encouraged by the fact that it's being so well received. But again, it comes back to that political minefield. Some people would say she's got to negotiate because it's all about funding and politics and education and helping.
More affordable childcare.
Affordable childcare. So again, it's something that has to be navigated. But it is very much her pet project. And if it does find a way of generating 45.5 billion, which seems a lot of money, then it's only to be applauded. And maybe the good news from that will help her feeling more positive about her recovery. But all in all, I think it's not a bad thing what she's doing here, because we can see the benefits. And where I live, there was a trial project near Leamington Spa, which I know from people I've spoken to has gone extremely well. And so it needs to be encouraged, perhaps.
I mean, it's been described as her life's work, this early years campaign, hasn't it?
Absolutely, she's absolutely committed. She spends a lot of time behind the scenes, talking to experts, getting involved, being across the detail. So yeah, she's absolutely committed to it. I just wonder where it's going, because it's extremely worthy. It's a good topic, but these figures, where do they come from? I mean, the reports about sort of 16 billion you save by I can't remember, avoiding remedial sort of therapy or whatever for people who have poor childhoods, if you're nicer to them when they're young.
It's also about retention of staff in the workforce, isn't it?
Yeah.
Making it easier for people to go back to work.
Yeah. Anyway, I suspect there's slightly optimistic figures, but, you know, it generates a good talking point.
Prince William is to be an usher next month for the wedding of Hugh Grosvenor, the Duke of Westminster, but the rest of his family will be sitting this one out. Prince Harry is not expected to attend, and that absence is significant, as Hugh Grosvenor is known to be close to Prince Harry and is also godfather to his son Archie. Rupert, what do we make about this? Harry, not invited, or a diplomatic excuse and saying, I'm terribly sorry I can't make it, to avoid a family rift overshadowing the event?
I think that's probably ultimately the decision, because if he turns up, we know it's a soap opera, because we'll be wondering, who's he walking with? What's going on there? You know, is he going to look William in the eye? What's the body language between them? And that will distract from the Duke of Westminster's big day. People will be lining the streets of Chester. It will be a big shindig. But if we have Harry in town, every time we see him, he turns up at something, then you know that the focus is on him. And it is a distraction. And if William is going to be an usher, will he be going bride or groom? Will he be briefed to do that and point people to their seat? I don't know how it works for the future king being an usher, but it shows his close support of the Westminster family and the current Duke.
And it's put them in a, I mean, you know, everyone drawing up the guest list for the wedding, there are always some tricky decisions, but this one will have been quite a tightrope for the Duke of Westminster, because he's close to both William and Harry.
Yes, I mean, Hugh Grosvenor, or Hughie, as he's known to his friends, is godfather to Prince George and also godfather to Prince Archie, as we should call him. So, I mean, I'm sure he was genuinely conflicted, but it's going to be a marvellous occasion. Grosvenor is, of course, one of the richest people in the country. Family owns swathes of Cheshire, Lancashire, Oxfordshire, Mayfair, Belgravia, and they've very considerately said strictly no gifts. I just wonder how strictly that is, because if you're very close to you, do you say, Hughie, can we give you something? Sure, we can't give you something. And what's he say to that?
They don't need much, do they?
What does he say to that? Well, Hampshire would be nice.
So do you think they've got a wedding list? No wedding list?
No gifts.
No gifts?
No.
Oh,
No.
Peter Jones must be heartbroken.
The King and Queen not going either, Val.
Yeah.
And of course, memories go back to Hugh Grosvenor's sister's wedding, where there was a tricky conversation that had to be had about Camilla.
That's right, because Charles and Camilla were not married at that point. Camilla was very much unofficial, and so she was going to be invited to the wedding, but sitting in a different row to Charles, and Charles and Camilla decided that was not on, and therefore didn't go. So I'm sure the bad blood from that one took a little while to settle down.
But I wonder if you know, you have to invite them, the King and Queen, to the wedding, but perhaps if they turn down the invitation, you might breathe a sigh of relief, because that does somewhat change things, doesn't it? The dynamics of an occasion. And
that he is recovering from cancer as well, so yes. It's an easy opt-out. So I think there's no issue there. And going up to Cheshire, it might be deemed that there's a lot of other things going on. That he's
also got D-Day, the day he's in Normandy, I believe. Just the day before.
So I think it's an easy one for them to say, look, we'll leave William to go and hold the fort and point people to their seats.
The Duke of Sussex reportedly rejected his father's offer to stay at a royal residence while he was in London for the Invictus anniversary. If the invitation had been accepted, the two could have spent some time together despite their busy schedules. Prince Harry allegedly turned down the invitation due to security concerns. Now, I'm a bit confused about this story, Val, because initially we were told when Prince Harry arrived in London that he had wanted to see his father, but his father's diary was too busy. Now, and it seemed a little odd at the time that Charles couldn't find 10 minutes in his, busy schedule, but 10 minutes for his son. Now there's another narrative coming out, which is actually the King offered Harry a bed in one of the royal residences, possibly St James's Palace, do we think? Which would have been very convenient. And Harry said no, for security reasons.
Yeah, this is all incredibly complicated and confusing. He's definitely offered him a bed. It was a royal residence. It was a major royal residence. I mean, so it wasn't sort of, the gamekeeper's cottage at Balmoral. It was somewhere proper. And Harry was concerned about its security. And of course, that on the face of it sounds like nonsense. Because
it doesn't get more secure
because
than
it doesn't
a
get
royal
more
residence,
secure.
does it?
But of course, once he comes out, he doesn't have security, and I think security is at the heart of this from the Sussex point of view, because they're still extremely aggrieved that the automatic security has been withdrawn, and many of his requests for security when he's been over here in the last year or so have been turned down. So what he does instead is he stays in a hotel. And what's interesting and incredibly significant is that no one has found out which hotel. We don't know. So Harry's argument that he can stay anonymously in some hotel somewhere and slip in and out unnoticed does hold some water. But I think Harry's making a point here. And it's a point related to the fact that he feels so aggrieved about not getting his security.
But it did mean, if it had been St James's Palace, for example, right next door to Clarence House, the King's residence, that would have meant that without being spotted, he could then have gone in and had a cup of tea with his dad.
This is the problem. He could have easily done, but Harry is feeling, he is absolutely convinced of his rightness, that he needs proper security when he comes to this country. He doesn't feel he gets it, yet he can go to Nigeria, where someone is obviously footing the bill to great extent for his security there. And you think, which is potentially more dangerous? Of course he's high profile, but even if he was walking from out of that hotel, there would be a degree of protection. They're not going to just allow him to flounder. So
he's got his own security team that travelled with him as well, hasn't he?
So sometimes I know it's more personal. It's basically his mission is to sort this out.
But how do you think the King would feel about this, Val? Because actually that statement was put out, which effectively said, well, it's the King's fault. Yes. He didn't find time. And a lot of people said, well, that's not on. Your son's travelled.
I think the King would have been quite hurt by that. It was quite passive-aggressive, the Sussex statement, wasn't it? Nice on the surface, but really...
Hopes to see him next time. Yeah. Yes. Staying with Prince Harry, because he has lost a bid to name Rupert Murdoch in legal action against News Group newspapers. High Court Judge Mr Justice Fancourt said that allegations against trophy targets like Mr Murdoch added nothing material to the case. This was an attempt by Prince Harry to broaden out this case against News Group newspapers, Rupert, by bringing in dates back to 94, right up to 2016. And, of course, the headline-grabbing one, he wanted to include allegations about Rupert Murdoch, and he's been told no.
Well, and this is the problem for Harry. His mission, again, is to take on the press, and this is all part of that time where he felt that he was being unduly targeted. This is, again, he won't let this one go, and he will try everything. But unfortunately, the courts of law do seem to be dampening his wish to see everybody summarily being hung, drawn and quartered for working in the press. I mean, that's really what you feel he's going with this. Sometimes he just less is more. He maybe just needs to back off, but he's not for telling, I don't think. And that's part of the problem. He wants to feel that he can get some big names found guilty of doing whatever they're supposed to have done.
Yeah, I think about the judge saying that they just can't help themselves trying to add more and more onto this and reminding them it's not an inquiry.
Yeah, and we saw this in his case against the Mirror, which, lest we forget, he did actually win. He won more, some he lost on, but he definitely won on some. He included in that examples of so-called invasions of privacy, which quite simply were not. I mean, there were people sort of copying out articles from the wire agencies or lifting something which had been in the Sunday papers the day before. That was ridiculous, but hidden within that, there were plenty of examples which the court found were invasions of privacy. But he just wants to throw it all at them.
He wanted to include his mother in it. He wanted to go to Meghan and her treatment by the press. I think he did have a win on one part of his proposal, and that's to include more journalists and private investigators in the case, but the big kind of headline-grabbing ones he didn't get.
I just think he feels that he wants to try and get... There must be an end game at some stage, but he does...
It's a crusade, it is, isn't it? As you said, this is very much his project, and he feels extremely deeply about this, that he wants to change the shape of the media.
And I think he feels so aggrieved, he can't actually... And that is his sole purpose, it seems. The security issues and this are the things that really seem to be driving him forward, and sometimes in a blinkered fashion. And sometimes he doesn't seem to be able to stand back and just, for a brief moment, smell the roses and check out what's really going on, because it seems to be, it's like charging in, and then he's getting it slapped back down in his face by a judge, as in what happened earlier this week.
Well, following their trip to Nigeria, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex celebrated their 6th wedding anniversary this week. The pair were joined on a double date by friends at a steakhouse near their residence in Montecito. They were dining with Brian Robbins and his wife, Tracy. They've grown closer over the Duke and Duchess's time in America, and the significance of Brian Robbins and his wife, Tracy, Val, is what?
They're very close, warm friends. Oh, and coincidentally, Brian Robbins is head of Paramount. And Harry and Meghan are about nothing if they're not about their media career. So, of course, we saw Harry and Meghan with them at the Marley premiere. Yeah, I mean, they schmooze with, you know, they are focused schmoozers, and they're not going to go to a very expensive steakhouse in Montecito with just anyone.
And on just any date, it happened to be their 6th wedding anniversary. Rupert, I wonder how Netflix will be feeling about this friendship.
Probably not entirely happy, but I'm sure Brian and Tracy were delighted to be asked. I presume their diary must be quite busy, so presumably at the moment they do feel that they're good friends, and hopefully they did have fun. I believe the steak was at $175 for a porterhouse steak. I think it was a pretty meaty one, I think, but I wonder who ate that, if they order it.
And just saying that 6th anniversary, in many ways, because so much has happened since that day, that beautiful sunny day in Windsor, it feels like longer, doesn't it, when you think about it?
I know, so much history has passed. It's very hard to put yourself back into the mindset of then, when we were all very positive. This fantastic wedding. We were all on Team Harry and Meghan, weren't we? And that, you know, the kiss outside the chapel, and their carriage ride through the crowds. And the slightly overlong sermon by the American bishop. But yeah, it seems a different era.
I mean, it really does. And it reminds us actually just what a loss it is, because hopes then were running so high that this couple could really bring about positive change.
I think what we forget is that we were all supporting them. I mean, we wished and hoped this would be a new era, and it was a wonderful occasion. I remember drinking far too much rosé on the banks of the River Thames after it to celebrate it. But, I mean, that was just a very positive day. But the way it unravelled, and it did unravel so quickly, it's just sad that from all that optimism, but actually now we know that even before then, within the sort of machinations of the royal household, all was not calm and serene as in the build-up to it. But it's sad, because we do miss that moment of pulling power of Harry and Meghan when they were in the fold.
And particularly over recent months as well. Now, last week, we talked about the new portrait of the King. This week, a new portrait of the Princess of Wales for the cover of Tatler has received backlash from royal fans. The aim, apparently, was to honour Kate's strength and dignity, but fans have branded it dreadful and say it looks nothing like the royal. The painting was created by British Zambian artist Hannah Uzor, but people were not impressed, with some even saying the artist should have gone to Specsavers. What do we think of the picture of the painting, gentlemen?
My first reaction was it looked like a child's painting. I was not impressed. There is one other, and obviously Tatler spent some money, and obviously it's sad that in a way they have to now get paintings of the to sell copies of the Tatler of the Princess of Wales. There was one other statue that Ascot. They had a statue of Frankie Dettori after his Magnificent Seven, which when it was unveiled, everybody around just went, and including Frankie, even and then it's now been secreted away. It's just got the body looks exactly like him, which the painting does of the Princess of Wales, but the face bore no resemblance. And I must admit, that face, I wouldn't have known.
I agree with you. If it wasn't for the dress, and
exactly.
It is based on a photograph of her at the South African state banquet, is it?
I think it was the dress, the tiara, the sash, the brooch. You know,
that tells us who it is. But the face.
Apart from that, it could be anyone. I don't think Tatler's money was well spent.
I'd love to know what the Tatler editor, when he saw it for the first, or she saw it for the first time, went, well, we've paid for it, we've got to go with it.
Strength and dignity, apparently.
Yeah. Well, they certainly might have sold a few copies because we're talking about it.
We are talking about it. Very good point. That is all we've got time for, though, this week. My thanks to Valentine and Rupert. If you want to join in with the debate, please do leave a comment and make sure you subscribe if you don't want to miss a single episode. We'll be back next week with all the latest on the royal family. We hope you can join us. We'll see you then.